Okay. Can you just remind me where we are? Because I've got, I get confused. I've got 4 classes on this text every week.
I think we just finished up to 170. So verse 170.
We finished 170. So we
Yeah.
finished the imama.
Not entirely, I don't think so. Someone else can correct me if I'm wrong. Because we didn't start 171, like the permissible things to choose as an imam.
No, we did. We did.
We did? Okay,
We
sure.
did. Because the thing is that, how Sidi Meyara uh, divides it up is Shurut al-Sihha and Shurut al-Kamal. So we finished both. Because the first section is Shurut al-Sihha and the second is Shurut al-Kamal. So they're done. So from 165 to 171 are, Shurut al-Sihha and Shurut al-Kamal combined. Inshallah. Okay, I know where I am. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله. 172. Can you read it, Zakaria, for me?
The follower of the imam follows in everything except an action which is added. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, go on.
So swerve away from such following.
Okay. Now, Sidi Mayara goes into a lot more detail that we need on this. So I'll summarize what Sidi Mayara is saying. The scenario that Sidi Mayara comes up with is we are under obligation to follow the Imam from the beginning to the end. Unless, now this is unless where the Imam makes an addition and you are 100% certain that the Imam has made an addition, then you do not follow him. If you are in doubt, you follow. If you are certain, you do not follow. If you do follow, you invalidate your prayer. So the scenario is this that, Salatul Maghrib, um, the Imam gets up for the 4th rakat. Once he gets up for the 4th rakat, if you follow him and you are certain that it is the 4th rakat, then you have invalidated your prayer. If you are not certain, you follow. Your prayer is fine. So what do you do when the Imam gets up for a 4th or 5th rakat and you are certain that the Imam has got up for the 4th or 5th rakat? You wait till the Imam finishes and returns to the sitting position, the final sitting position. He does his tashahhud and the dua, whatever, and then he ends the prayer. You do not follow him with the 2 extra sajdas afterwards because you did not. It was the addition that the Imam made. Once he says the salam, your prayer is done. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, Zakaria.
That makes sense in the situation where a rak'ah is added. But let's say the imam does another sajda or something. What's the case for that?
Where he does a 3rd sajda,
Yeah.
you don't follow him.
And then you rise when he rises.
You rise when he rises.
Mm.
What you've got to understand is that you follow him if you're in doubt. Where you are certain that it is an addition, you do not follow him. And if you do follow him on when you are 100% certain, it will invalidate your prayer. Does that make sense, Zachary?
That makes perfect sense. Jazakallah.
What? Yeah. Okay. 173 then.
The latecomer makes the initial takbir immediately and enters the prayer with the imam regardless of what the current action is.
And 174. Sorry.
The latecomer makes an extra takbir after the initial takbir if he finds the imam prostrating or bowing, but not if he finds the imam sitting, and then he follows the imam until the end of the prayer.
Okay. Now, uh, again, Sidi Meyara's commentary in on these two verses is regarding, the latecomer who joins the Jamaat. So when he joins the Jamaat, he makes the opening takbir, and whatever situation he finds the Imam, he enters in. If he is, in ruku or in sajda or sitting. Now, if he remembers, he should make the takbir to go into ruku or go into sajda or sitting. Sorry. Only the takbir should be only to go into ruku or go into sajda, not if you find them sitting. You hold the takbir. And if it's, the final sitting, the Imam will say salam and you get up and carry on as if you had said the takbir and the sitting is ignored. If it is, for the third rakat, then, the Imam will stand and say the takbir and you will follow them. So, whatever position you find yourself in, whatever position, you find the Jamaat, you join them, and then from that position, you follow the Imam. Yes, Saifuddin.
So if the Imam is in ruku, you do
Yeah.
2 takbirs and go into ruku.
Mm.
And if he's in sajda, it's 1 takbir, then another one, then straight down into sajda.
Yes.
And if
Not
it's
for the
sitting,
sitting.
not for the
Not for
sitting,
the
yeah.
sitting. Nothing for the sitting.
It's just the one.
Yeah. If for, because sometimes people do rush. So if you rush into the opening takbir and go into sajda, go into ruku, the Imam will carry you for that. But the ideal is that, you open your prayer with the opening takbir and then do they say the takbir to go into ruku or go into sajda. If you don't, because it's, one of those takbirs that the Imam can carry you on, the Imam will carry you. But ideally, do it. But not for if you find them sitting. So you say the takbir, and if you find them sitting, then sit. You will only catch the ruku, the rakat if you catch the ruku, not if you catch the sajda or if you catch the sitting. If it's the final sitting, you've not caught anything of the Jamaat.
Mm.
Yes, real one.
So we had said that generally speaking, there's a moment of rest or stillness between each movement. This is still required if we're coming late as well, right? So we make the initial takbir and we still have to be still prior to next going to the next going into ruku or whatever, or can we just kind of make takbir and immediately go to the ruku or wherever the imam is?
Usually people will rush
Mm.
from the opening takbir into ruku, but the good practice or good fiqh would be there should be that moment of stillness.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Because Imam Malik radiallahu anhu is very clear on this, that you catch the Jama'ah when you have that moment of stillness in the ruku, and the Imam should be in that position as well. It becomes very difficult when you're behind a Hanafi Imam, because it's always have any of you prayed apart from Saifuddin, have any of you prayed Tarawih behind a Hanafi Imam? It's a good workout. It's really, really quick. It depends on, alhamdulillah, it's getting better, but people share, which is the quickest Imam, so you can get it out of the way. But there should be that moment of stillness. That would be the ideal. Okay, let's move on. 175. Yes, Zakaria.
Sorry, before we move on, two questions. The first is, if you say the takbir al-ihram and then you mistakenly add the takbir for when they're sitting down, that's an addition to the prayer, right? Does the imam carry that for you? You can't carry an addition, right?
He actually can,
Okay.
which is quite shocking. But depends on if it's the final sitting, because if it's still in prayer, if example, the example you gave, the scenario is that it's the final sitting. The imam can carry you because you've not done anything with the imam.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
But if it's the first sitting, the imam will carry you.
Right.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
sorry, the second question is closely related. If you know that the Jama'ah, sorry, if you know that the Jama'ah is in its final sitting, like after the ruku of the final rak'ah, should you still actively try to join the Jama'ah?
The advice of all the fuqaha, doesn't matter which madhab it is, that you join the Jama'at in whatever position you find the Jama'at.
Even if you know they're in the last tashahhud?
You really don't know if they're in the last tashahhud, do you?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because there is a way around this, is if you don't rush, if you walk in calmly, and yes, you usually can tell because the final sitting is longer than the other one. But the advice is still don't separate yourself from the Jamaat. Yeah. The Hanafis still they believe they get something if they join the Jamaat. We don't. But it's still, it's join it rather than, start your own.
Sure.
Yes, Saifuddin.
So if you join in the last
Sitting.
rakat, sitting position, do you not gain the reward?
You only get the reward if you catch the ruku.
Okay, so it's okay.
There's no reward after the ruku.
After the last ruku.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And can you explain this concept again of the imam carrying the prayer or the action? What does that mean?
It means is if you make an addition or an omission behind the imam will carry you unless it is one of the fara'id. So if you omit, you know, a standing, a ruku, or two sajdas, the imam can't carry you on those. Or if you don't even begin the opening takbir. So if you don't begin the prayer and end the prayer, the imam can't carry you on that. So if you don't stand for Fatiha or don't and you don't go into ruku or rise from it, or you go in, you don't do the two sajdas, the imam can't carry you up for the fara'id.
Okay. And what do you do in that case? Is that your prayer invalid? You just
No. After the, for instance, I'll give you an example. You forget to do one. You do one sajda with the imam, and you forget about the second sajda. I don't know how it's going to happen, but you know, just take the
Yeah.
scenario.
Yeah.
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 Now, because you haven't done the one sajda, so what you will do is after the imam ends the prayer, yeah,
Hmm.
you do one sajda, then do the attahiyat, after then salam, and then do two sajdas again. You know what you would do for if you, because you've added now, you left a sajda out, so
Mm.
you add the sajda.
Mm.
Yeah. Now you've got to do two sajdas of omission.
Yeah.
Does that? It's like, you know, when you leave something out, there's two sajdas before the salam, and if you add something, it's two sajdas after the salam. So you left a sajda out, so you've got to do that sajda.
Yeah. Then
Yeah,
attahiyat.
yeah. Do that tahiyat, then do two sajdas again, and then do a salam.
Yeah.
Yes, Zakaria.
In that case, doesn't the missing of a sajda nullify a whole rak'ah? Wouldn't you do a whole rak'ah instead? Or you just do the sajda?
The thing is, he caught the rak'ah with the imam, but he forgot to do a sajda.
So he'd just do the sajda
He
and then
just he adds the sajda after the imam.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you were praying alone,
If you're praying alone, you'll invalidate your prayer. If
so do you
you
just
end the
give
prayer.
up? You just give up at that point.
No, you wouldn't give up at that point, because what you've got to understand here is you're with the imam.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how, but you know how you're going to miss it, but you know, you miss something. For instance, you know, you miss the ruku. Wa alaikum salam billah. Um, and then after the imam says the salam, you add the sajda, do the tashud, do the two sajdas of omission, and then end it.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you were praying alone, as soon as you remember that you've forgotten, you know, your sajda, if you're still in the prayer, as soon as you remember what rakat you have, that will be gone. So you will do the sajda and then come up, make up the rakat that you just
Yeah.
more or less rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Are we okay, Zakaria? Okay. Uh, 175.
175. When the imam makes his terminating salam, the latecomer stands up to make the missed verbal recitations, and in the physical actions, he builds off what he prayed with the imam.
Okay. Imam Sidi Meyara's commentary on this, the latecomer, when the imam makes the salam, ends the prayer with the salam, So all the prayer that he missed when he came up with. Let me give you a scenario which might make it a lot easier than me trying to explain it. Salatul Maghrib. Yeah. You caught the final rakat of Maghrib. Yeah. In Jamaat with the Imam. So the Imam ends the prayer. You get up. What rakat are you making up? Is it your second or your first? It's not a, yes, Zakaria.
It's your second in terms of physical actions.
And by aqwal?
It's your first, so you'd pray out loud with the surah after.
Yeah, that's it. So the same scenario with Salatul Subh. If you call, the second rakat, you'd make up your, yeah. And the same scenario would be if you caught the last two rakats of Isha. So when you get up to make the two you missed, you would recite aloud. So those physical actions would be of the third and fourth, but the said would be of the first and second.
So I'm just a bit confused there. So if you missed the last two rakats of, if you missed the first two rakats of Isha,
yeah,
and you wouldn't terminate with the salam. You just read your tahiyat. No salam.
yeah.
The imam will give the salam, and the rest of the jamaat, they will finish. You
Yes.
just stand straight back up,
Yeah.
and recite Surah Fatiha, no surah.
Yeah.
And then ruku sajda, back up again.
Yeah.
Or just Surah Fatiha, no surah, and then the ruku sajda, finish the prayer.
No, because you missed two. You missed the first two rakats. So the second rakat will be Surah Fatiha and a surah aloud.
Confused. I'm confused now.
Okay. Scenario is you caught the last two rakats in Jamaat of Salatul Isha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you recited, the Imam recited it silently, and you followed him. You recited Surah Fatiha silently. Yeah. So you missed the two rakats that were recited aloud. So once the Imam ends the prayer, you will get up for your physical third rakat, but your said will be of the first rakat. So Fatiha and a surah.
Oh,
And
Fatiha
then,
and the surah.
yeah. And then for the fourth rakat, the said will be the second rakat. You will have to do Fatiha and a surah.
Fatiha. Okay, I thought it was no surah.
No.
That's fine. Yep.
So whatever you miss
You
of,
make up.
the said has to be, so for Maghrib and Isha, the first two rakats are said aloud. So if you miss those two, you will have to say them aloud.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's the same for Salatul Subh as well. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Sanaullah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So in Maghrib, I have two scenarios. So one scenario is like, if say I joined in the third rakah, but
Yes.
after ruku, So I missed the third rakah as well. So once I get up, so I'm doing my whole Maghrib as from beginning, right? From my first is when I get up, that's my first in call and in standing.
Yes.
Okay. And then I continue the same thing. The first two are allowed, and the last is silent.
Silent.
Okay. A second scenario is when I joined this last rakah of Maghrib, but it was before ruku, so I didn't recite any surahs
Yeah.
in
You
the
would
first
recite
rakah.
Fatiha.
No, I mean I joined like when they
Yeah,
were in
in
ruku.
the rakat is silent.
Right. I know I joined the Jamaat when they're in ruku, so I missed the recitation of Fatiha with the Imam.
Yeah.
So then they salam, and then once I get up, that would be my second loud rakah, right?
No, it'd be your first loud rakat, because you've caught the third rakat.
Right.
Yeah. So that's your
Yes.
physical uh, third rakat.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, when you
Yes.
get up for the physical second rakat, that's your
Right.
second rakat. But qawlan, it's your first rakat. So you will recite aloud Fatiha and a surah. And then for the second rakat, when you get up, that'll be your physical third rakat. But qawlan, it'll be your second rakat.
Oh,
You will
so
recite Fatiha and a surah.
so both so after salam, after I get up, I'll recite both the rakas aloud.
Yes. But the
Ah,
loud should be, you should keep in mind that you're in company.
correct.
We had a scenario, when in Birmingham, this is quite some time ago, a Pakistani guy. It was a Gujarati mosque, and the Gujarati mosque the whole mosque thought that there was a second Jamaat. He was reciting louder than the Imam had.
Yeah, that would cause confusion.
Yeah,
Shukran.
you're welcome. Yes, Zakaria.
I just think it's worth mentioning that the tashahhud falls under the physical actions. So if you'd miss one rak'ah from Maghrib, you'd do the first rak'ah out loud, and you'd sit for a tashahhud in between, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tashahhud, if you catch, the last rakat, you end up with 3 tashahhuds.
Yeah. So you catch the last one, you stand up, you pray out loud with a surah, then you do a tashahhud, and
Yeah,
then you
because
stand up
that's your
again.
physical
Yeah.
second rakat.
Mhm.
So there's, if you catch, one rakat of Salatul Maghrib, you end up doing 3 tashahhuds.
Yeah.
And that's the only scenario in the 5 prayers where you end up doing 3 tashahhuds. There isn't any other. Does that make sense to the rest?
Wouldn't you be doing 3 rakats? You'd basically repeat the whole 3.
No, because look, you've you did 1 tashahhud with the Imam.
Yeah, but that rakat doesn't count, does
No,
it?
that rakat counts because you caught the ruku.
No, I'm saying if you didn't catch the ruku.
Yes, that wouldn't count. So you'll end up with 4 tashahhuds.
4, yeah, he done before.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a good one, Saif.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Zakaria?
If you don't catch the last ruku', then you just end up with 3 tashahhuds maximum, no?
No,
Because
you'll
you
end up
do
with 4.
you do a tashahhud with the imam,
Yeah.
and then you'd pray Maghrib as normal, which is 2 extra tashahhuds. So you end up with 3.
No, he didn't catch the ruku.
He didn't catch the ruku' of the second rak'ah, not the last rak'ah.
No, the last one.
If he didn't catch the ruku' of the last one, then he prays Maghrib as normal, right? Which
No,
means
he joined them in the Jamaat. He
yeah,
sat.
he sat. Yeah, so he didn't catch the ruku' of the last rak'ah. So
Yeah.
he sits with the imam tashahhud,
Yeah.
and then he rises and he prays maghrib as normal,
Yes, but
which
he
means he
ends up
prays
doing 4
3.
tashahuds.
That's 3, isn't it?
No,
That is 3. The only case where you do 4 is if you miss the ruku' of the second rak'ah and you sit with the imam the first time, then you sit in with him the second time, and then
no, it's only 3 in your scenario.
wait. Okay, so in
You know the
Saifuddin's
scenario that Saif is giving.
yeah.
It's a follow it through.
Okay, so
He hasn't caught the ruku, so he joins the Jamaat.
yep.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
they're in the final tashahhud. So he sits and does the tashahhud. So he's said the takbir,
Yes.
but he sits.
So that's one.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
so
one.
that's his first tashahhud.
Yep.
So the Imam says salam, ends the prayer.
Yep.
He gets up and prays Maghrib as normal.
Yep. And Maghrib has 2 tashahhuds only.
Oh yeah, you're right. He
Which is
does
3.
2 tashahhuds.
Oh,
Yes.
that's cool.
Yeah, I was getting confused too.
Yeah, we're all.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's only 2.
I was getting a bit confused.
So what's
Alhamdulillah, it's good.
isn't there a case where there's 4? I can't remember.
I can't see any.
Yeah,
I got
3
confused myself on that one.
3 is the maximum, I think. Yeah.
No, 3 is the maximum.
And,
But
and I'm sorry.
Sanawla, Bismillah.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off. So I just wanted to know, I don't know if we're gonna cover this later or if we covered this. So once we are joining the imam in like say ruku or in sujud, do we say like the opening takbir and the takbir to go down to sujud or to ruku, or we just say one Allahu Akbar and join wherever they are?
You just missed it. That's what we covered.
Oh, I'm so
You,
sorry.
you say the opening takbir. Yeah. You say the opening takbir, and then after momentary stillness, you say the takbir to go into ruku or sajda.
Got it. Thank you. I'll view the recording. Thank you.
No, and if they are sitting, you don't do any takbir. You just go and sit.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. 176.
When standing up after the imam's salam, the latecomer says takbir if he obtained a pair of units or less than 1 unit with the imam. And the correctable mistakes which the imam makes while the latecomer is following are the imam's responsibility, and the correctable mistakes which the latecomer makes after imam's terminating the salam are the latecomer's responsibility.
Okay. It seems like straightforward, that one, doesn't it? Yeah. But again, you must have prayed 1 rakat. But anyway, let's go what Sidi Mayara has to say. So Sidi Meyara is when the Imam says the salam, and the latecomer intends to stand, should he stand by saying a takbir or stand without saying a takbir? Yeah. Now, this again is if he's prayed with the Imam a rakat, then he will, when he stands for the 3rd rakat, he will say a takbir when he stands. Yeah. If he has not caught a rakat or 2 with the Imam, I think the last bit, if you just ignore it, if you've caught, 2 rakats when you stand with the Imam, when you stand, the latecomer stands for his 3rd rakat, they will, say the takbir, once they've fully stood. If they've caught one rakat, they will again have to say the takbir. Do they say the takbir when they stand up for the second rakat or not? So that's my question to you. So he's caught 2 rakats. Yeah. When he stands for the third rakat, it's clear. Because when he stands up for the third rakat, when he stands up, he will say the takbir. So the scenario is this: he's caught 1 rakat. Does he say, the latecomer, say the takbir for his second rakat or not? He's only caught 1 rakat with the imam. Anybody want to have a go? Go on, Zakaria.
Based on what 176 is saying, I don't think he says the takbir when he rises, because it's either 2 or less than 1.
No, I cleared the 2-1.
Yep.
You can't bring the 2-1 in, just the 1.
So if it's just the 1, then he doesn't say the takbir.
He doesn't
I
say
don't
the
think so.
takbir. Because when did they say the takbir?
They say the takbir when the latecomer's caught 2 or less than 1, so nothing basically.
Okay. Because when you get up from your second sajda, from the first rakat, yeah, first rakat, you get up from the second sajda, what do you say?
You don't say the takbir unless you've got all the way up, right?
No.
Oh.
Don't think ahead. Don't think ahead. Yeah. So first rakat, yeah, you've gone into sajda. You got up from ruku. You said the takbir and you went into the first sajda. You got up. You said the takbir to get up from the second sajda. No, first sajda. Yeah. You sat. You said the takbir again, and you went into the second sajda. Now, what do you say to get up from the second sajda?
It's a takbir, right?
Yeah, so you say the takbir. So that's how you need to understand. When you catch one rakat, you've already said the takbir to get up for the second sajda.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah. So that's the reason why you only say the takbir for the third rakat. Not if you've caught 2 rakats, yeah. When you get up for the third takbir, you say it then. But if you've only caught 1 rakat with the imam, you don't say the takbir because you've already said it. Because if you do say it, you will add the takbir. Does that make sense?
So if you catch the last rakat, you don't say the takbir when you go up. The imam gives the salam, you just go straight up. You don't say anything.
You go straight up because you've already said the takbir. Yeah?
Yeah.
Sanallah, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Could you like maybe give an example from like Maghrib or something, if you don't mind?
Okay. Maghrib, you caught the last rakat. Yeah?
Okay.
You caught the last rakat in Jamaat. The Imam says salam. Yeah? You don't say the takbir to get up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah? Now, why not, Sanaullah?
I mean, I entered at the third rak'ah. It said Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
I finished the two prostrations, sat in tashahhud. Oh, so after I got up from the second sujood, I said Allahu Akbar and sat in tashahhud instead of rising up.
That's it.
So, oh, okay. So that's why I just, okay, I see. Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yes, but well, what if I've made this mistake in the past? What
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, shukran.
It's fine. Yeah. Are we okay on that?
So you just get up and you just start saying the Fatiha,
Bismillah
right?
ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Yeah.
Okay.
Would your prayer not be one short of one takbir? Like if you were to add it
How?
up.
How?
So if you were to, let's say, join the rakat and you then need to repeat the first two for Maghrib, and then if you were to
No.
count.
So now, Saif, if you go back to what we were talking about before, you know, fi'lan, it's your second rakat. Yeah. You know, action-wise.
Yep.
You know, action-wise, it's your second rakat.
Yeah.
Not your first rakat. It's your second rakat. So you've already said the takbir for your second.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll
Yeah.
probably need to count the number of times I do takbir, and then how many takbirs there are, and then compare and see. It probably does add up.
No, because if you add the takbir, it will be an addition. But again, it's if you go by Imam Ibn Rushd and his Muhafidhatul Madhab, for the minor sunnahs, you don't do sajda sahw. So these takbirs, you know, when you move from one position to the other, they're not, you know, akid.
Yep.
They're not stressed. So if it is missed, it's something that's, you know, overlooked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just, you know, something that, you know, you'll find, you know, how you can tell people who know their fiqh and people who don't know their fiqh is, you know, when you get up for your third rakat, yeah, your third rakat is never say the takbir while you are getting up. Again, it's not something that there is a position within the madhab that you can do it as you get up. But you know, people will, especially people who've spent their lives, you know, bookworms and people who know the fiqh, they will automatically, who the hell taught him? Yeah. So once you're fully standing, then say Allahu Akbar. There's an ishara, an indication of, you know, what one of the reasons why this position is held by the school is that, you know, one of the positions of Abdullah bin Wahab, radhiallahu anh, you know, an imam in his own right, especially in hadith, you know, one of the later senior companions of Imam Malik, radhiallahu anh, he would raise his hands, like, you know, you open when you say the takbiratul ihram, you raise your hands. So for the third rakat, his position is he would raise his hands, because it was a new set of two that begins. Because, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with you know, this Sayyidah Aisha, radiallahu ta'ala anha, she has this position which our school doesn't accept, but you'll find it in the Muwatta, that the Shafis, Sanawla, the Shafis raise their hands a lot more than just for the third rakat. Her position was that the prayer originally was only 2 rakats, and then one rakat for Maghrib was added and 2 for the others was added. It's something that as I said, our school and our scholarship doesn't support, but that was her position. And why it's not accepted is if there's inshallah some other day, but you'll find that is a position very difficult to hold. But one of the reasons given is that that of Sayyida Aisha, that 2 was the original, and then 2 then there were additions made.
Can it not be shown through the amal?
Say it again.
Can you not show it through what the regular practice was, the amal?
We know exactly what the regular practice was. That's why it's very difficult to hold Sayyida Aisha salamun alayha's position, because the prayer. If you go to Jami Tirmizi, you'll find that Sayyidina Ali alayhi salam says that revelation began on Monday, and I prayed with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on Tuesday, and we do not have any narration apart from Sayyida Aisha's where the prayer changed, and the prayer that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying was before it was made obligatory, because depends on what dating you take. The usual understanding is it's 3 or less years before the migration, the hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Medina, when the incident of Isra and Miraj happened, because that's when the prayer was made obligatory. And we know that because the first narration in the Muwatta is about the times of prayer, and on the 26th of Rajab is the night of Miraj, and on the 27th, and the narration begins with Salatul Dhuhr. So we know that Dhuhr is not 2 rakats. Dhuhr has always been 4 rakats. So Sayyidina Jibreel comes the next day and tells the Prophet to pray, look, this is Dhuhr time. Then he comes and tells, this is Asr time. Maghrib has always been 3. Yes, for travel, the 4 are reduced to 2. Maghrib is always 3. So it's a difficult one. But again, Sayyida Aisha salamun alayhi, you'll find that certain Sahaba radhiyallahu anhum, not just Sayyida Aisha, they have their unique positions. It's I'll tell you one which is I'd love to follow it, but I know I can't follow it. Anyway, yeah. Sayyid Abdul Aziz bin Sadiq al-Ghumari rahmatullah alayhi, one of the last great huffaz from Morocco of hadith, not of Quran. So a hafiz of hadith, by the way, is someone who has memorized 100,000 hadiths. Yeah, by memory, 100,000, and not only just the text, by the way. The names from him going back to the Rasul alayhi salatu wassalam. So one of the last ones was he died in 1997. Sayyid Abdul Aziz bin Sadiq al-Ghumari. A Bahar, a sea is a good name. I don't know if Bilal, you know, he served in Luxembourg as the Imam in the 1990s. Amazing man. And he brings forward, you know, this opinion of Sayyid Abdullah bin Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu's opinion for Jummah. So this is Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas's opinion that, you know, for Jummah, if you miss Jummah, you get there and, you know, the Imam's finished Jummah. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas's opinion is just pray 2 rakats. Yeah, just pray 2 rakats. And another one of his opinions is that, you know, combining Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha, there's an amazing discussion on this that, you know, Hafiz ibn Abdul Barri in his Tamheed. Oh, the city. Sorry, I think Bilal, it was in Brussels, you know, the Islamic Center, not Luxembourg. Because he talks about it, you know, he has a. How are you all married or not? No.
No.
Okay. Look, he has this work. He has this work which is really, really interesting. It's called يجوز وما يجوز وما لا يجوز في حياة الزوجية. That, you know, what's permitted and not permitted in, you know, marital life. And this occurred because, you know, he was there for a short period of time and then he returned back to Morocco. And what happens with a lot of, you know, Algerians and Moroccans, you know, in the summer, they just drive down. Summer holidays, they drive back to Algeria and Morocco. And a lot of their wives complained to him saying, look, they come back and they want to do it this way and that way and this and that, if you understand what I mean. And he ended up writing a whole book about it. So it's really an interesting book. ما يجوز وما لا يجوز في حياة الزوجية. But, you know, going back to the prayer one, again, our madhab doesn't follow it, but, you know, the discussion is always found on this. So sometimes, you know, some of these opinions of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum are quite amazing. I'd love to follow the 2 rakat one, but, you know, you just can't, because no one will give you the opinion. Okay. 177 and 178.
177. The late comer should prostrate the Imam's prostrations of forgetfulness made before the Salam along with the Imam, and he should make up those the Imam makes after the Salam after his own terminating Salam. 178. It does not matter whether the late comer was present during the Imam's mistake, but they have stipulated that he who does not obtain even a single unit along with the Imam should not prostrate the Imam's prostration of forgetfulness.
Okay. Now, because we're still dealing with, you know, the latecomer, Sidi Meyara radiallahu anhu, he says that, you know, in these 2 verses, the conversation is on, you know, the sajda of forgetfulness of the latecomer. We're informed that if he catches a rakat or more, yeah, then he follows the sujood, the sajda of forgetfulness of the Imam. If the sajda is qabli, meaning before the salam, he does the sajda with the imam. And that is the mashhur position of the imam. But he must have caught, a rakat or more. Yeah. If he delays it till, he finishes what he has missed before the salam, there are two opinions if his, salat is valid or not. Yeah. Or does that make sense? That, if he delays it, there are two positions. That, his prayer is not valid, and the other is it is valid. If the sajda is after the salam, if the sajda is badi, he must not, or she must not, do the sajda with the imam. They must do it after, they've made up their prayer, and after they're at the end. Now, if they were in this scenario, badi, if they were to do it with the imam on purpose or out of ignorance, they will invalidate their prayer, and they would, have to, begin again after the salam. In this, there's no difference of opinion. If they had, caught a rakat, yeah, or not caught a rakat. Now, if they have caught, if the latecomer has caught one rakat, yeah, وَأَمَّا إِذَا أَدْرَكَ الْمَسْبُوقَ أَقِلْ مِنْهُ فَلَا يُسْجُدُ عَلَيْهِ أَصْلًا. So, if they catch a rakat and, the sajda is ba'di, they must not do it with the imam. And that's the mashhur position. If they do it with the imam, they have invalidated what they have prayed. Does that make sense? Yes? Brilliant. Okay. So, just to sum up, if you've caught one rakat with the imam, and the imam does two sajdas of forgetfulness before ending the prayer, follow the imam. If he does two sajdas after the salam, don't follow the imam. Simple as that. Okay. Now, we're literally at the end of the Kitab al-Salat. Zakaria, if you can read 179, 180 and 181, which ends the book of Salat.
So 179. The prayer of the follower is invalidated by that which ruins the Imam's prayer, except some apparent branch cases. Such 180, such as if the Imam remembers that he is not pure or is overcome with ritual impurity while praying. He should in such case immediately leave the prayer to allow the follower's prayers to remain valid, and it is mandub for him to appoint one of the followers as his successor to finish the prayer with the other followers. If the Imam does not do this before leaving, then the followers may finish their prayers alone or send one of them forward as the replacement Imam who will finish the prayer with them.
Okay. So the last two verses, they call them maslatu istikhlaf. The word khilafa comes from that, which means deputy. Okay. We informed here that, whatever invalidates the prayer of the leader of the prayer invalidates the prayer of those praying behind them. because the connection is that with the imam, because the imam is there, to be seen. It's interesting how Sidi Mayara brings forward the image of has anybody been to a Moroccan wedding? Anyone? Bilal, how do they present the traditional, proper traditional? Bilal? The what's it called? The bride. No. As a there you go. They carry her so she can be seen, and it's the same metaphor that Imam Mayara is giving, that of the Imam. The Imam is there to be followed and he's seen. So whatever breaks, so if the Imam's wudu breaks, or he is overwhelmed by controlling his wind or urine, then it will break. The scenario that we're looking at is that the Imam is leading, his wudu breaks. What does he do? He can either walk away and someone will step forward, or he appoints someone, which is the recommendation. So if he's in ruku, then he will not, his ruku is gone as soon as his wudu goes. So he indicates to someone behind him to step forward, and they will take over and carry on. Now, if the Imam is appointed or deputize someone to take his place, then the Jamaat should follow the one who has deputized. If the Imam doesn't, then they are under no compulsion to follow the Imam. It is up to them to follow the Imam or to finish their prayer on their own. Yes, I can.
How does the Imam appoint the new Imam? Is it verbally or is it physically?
He can indicate.
Right.
He can indicate to someone. For example, the scenario that the Imam goes into ruku, breaks wind, or loses wudu. He just rises and indicates or asks whoever's behind him to step forward. Him saying it, step forward and take my place, is good fiqh. Why it's good fiqh is because you see everyone will hear. Yeah, everyone will hear. So now they know that so and so, the Imam has asked him to take his place. Yeah. Usually, majority of mosques will either have a second Imam, the deputy Imam behind the Imam, or it's usually the muadhin who stands behind the Imam. So if something happens, someone will he'll step forward. Yeah. This thing of when you're overwhelmed with them. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yes, Anaula.
Oh yeah. So just a couple of questions. So if the imam, or say like if the imam decides to like if he like finds out that he's in a state of ritual impurity, so does he say salam, just, or he just leaves?
He doesn't need to, because you see, as soon as you lose wudu, your prayer is invalidated. So you will only end the prayer if you're still in wudu.
Right. Okay. Um, I know. I'm just wondering if, if how would he? Because there are two options, right? Like it's either everybody behind him, they're all the salats invalidated as well.
No,
Eh,
their prayer doesn't get invalidated.
okay, it does not. Well, and so even like if he was praying like the say Zohar prayer, he prayed two rakas. The Imam prayed two rakas with in a state of ritual impurity. So his salah is invalidated, but the people behind him, the Ma'mun, the salah is valid, even though the Imam was in a
No,
state
no,
of
no.
ritual.
No one's got prayer there.
Say that one more time.
No one's got prayer there, because the imam can't be an imam without wudu.
Right. No, I'm just saying, do the two rakas that the followers prayed with the Imam, does that count for them, or they start
No,
from
that's what
beginning?
I'm saying. That if you do not have wudu, you have no prayer. So if you lead them or not lead them, there's no prayer there. Does that make sense, or shall I repeat it again?
Is that the
Okay.
Imam with wudu?
No,
Imam
the
has
scenario
wudu.
that Sanawla is giving is that, the Imam, out of forgetfulness, leads, the Jamaat for two rakats without wudu, then realizes he didn't have wudu. Yeah. So in that scenario, no one's got prayer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's got prayer, because the Imam can't lead prayer without wudu. He needs to have wudu.
Okay. So in that case, he can say salam, and then he can let people know.
No,
Okay, fine.
he just has to turn around and say, "Sorry, folks, I didn't have wudu."
Okay. Okay. But in the case if he breaks wind, then
Yeah,
whatever salah was there with a ritual purity counts for the people following him.
yeah. So just before he breaks wind, all their prayer is valid.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
What if there's confusion as to when he broke wind?
I was thinking the same thing as well. How does he explain that to the followers? Oh, by the
Look,
way, guys, I lost.
this happened. It's a very close friend of mine, and he told me this. And to this day, I still can't believe this happened. But this really, really did happen. Yeah. So the scenario is this: the Imam's leading Taraweeh. Yeah. And people are, saying Subhanallah, Subhanallah, and he's carrying on, reciting, because he knows he's not made any mistake. So he keeps reciting, and the people, Subhanallah, is getting louder and louder, and he's stamping his foot on the ground, more or less saying, "Shut up." And then, he finishes the two rakats and said Salaam alaikum and said, "What the hell were you lot doing?" He says, "You broke wudu." And he says, "Look, I did not smell it." And the guy behind him told him, "We smelt it." So the thing is that, those two rakats invalidated. Yeah.
Right. Got it.
Yeah. So if the Imam, as soon as he realizes he's, for instance, if he prays one rakat and loses wudu, he has to step aside. He has to step aside and let someone else, fill his place. Or he can say, and there is nothing wrong in saying this, because, in our madhab, as long as, the wording is precise and concise, he can say, "Look, I've lost wudu," or uh, just to save face, he can say, "Look, I've got an emergency." Because honor of a believer is greater than the Kaaba, so you cover all posts. So he can say, "Look, I've got an emergency. I've got to go. Sidi Fulan's going to lead." Yeah.
Okay.
And uh, I think we already covered that. If you need to speak and there's a valid reason to speak, that's fine. And in a scenario like this, it's fine. So if you are, asking someone else to step forward, if you say it so people hear it, is much better, because it removes that doubt, and it takes the, and to keep good fiqh is that you keep people together. Okay, this is where this text ends. Kitab al-Salat. So if you've got any questions about Kitab al-Salat, it's a good not Kitab al-Salat, about Salat, good time to ask, because we've come to the end of the chapter on Salat. Yes, Zakaria.
It's not a question, but there is the case where you do 4 tashahuds, and that's the case where you miss the ruku of the second rak'ah for Maghrib, and then if you pan it out, then you do end up doing 4.
You've been thinking about this, haven't you?
Just a little bit. It's been on my mind.
Okay, so you've done. You caught the second.
No,
Yeah?
you missed this. You missed the ruku of the second.
You missed
you
the
still
ruku
do.
of the second.
Yeah, but you still do tashahhud.
You do tashahhud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on Salat? Because in Birmingham it's Maghrib now, so I'm going to take a 10-minute break. So inshallah, we'll come back after 10 minutes, and we'll begin with any questions on Kitab al-Salat, on Salat, and then we'll carry on to Kitab al-Zakat, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Okay.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay. Oh, Zakaria, it's not 4 tashuds, it's still 3.
Is it it's, the latecomer catches 1 on the second one,
Yes.
but doesn't catch the second rak'ah, so it's as if he prayed 1 rak'ah.
No, he's caught. He just caught the last tashhud, didn't he?
No, he caught the tashahhud from the second rak'ah.
Okay.
Yep. So, but he didn't
does
catch
1
the
in the
rak'ah.
first. Yeah.
So he does 1 with the second while they're praying.
Yeah.
In the congregation, then 1 for the third one in congregation, then gets up and prays his first rak'ah alone,
Yeah.
and does the tashahhud,
Yeah.
because that's his second physical action, and then he does the tashahhud at the end.
Okay, got it. Okay, no problem. Have people got any questions on prayer? I keep asking again. No? Okay. Yes, Anullah.
Yeah, 176, the second part. I don't know if the second part says, in the case where the Mamun's negligence while behind the Imam, then latter is responsible. What was that? I didn't get this part, the second part of 176.
No. If you've caught 1 rakat with the Imam, yeah?
Yes.
Whatever you made any mistake in that rakat, the Imam will carry you. After that 1 rakat, you are responsible for your own mistakes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah? Inshallah. Listen to the recording again. I think we did go into a bit of detail with it. Okay. Anything else on prayer? If not, we'll move on then. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi. So we begin Kitabul Zakat. Now, there's a way that, Sidi Mayara introduces the subject. For future study and future reading, it's really, really useful. Because what he always does is he gives you a linguistic definition and then, a Shari definition. And it's always important that, when you understand, it's something that, from my universities, the professor would always, when people would ask a question and they would use a word, he would actually put a question back to them. Do you actually understand that word you just used? Because if you do not understand the word, don't use it. That was his. And this is the beauty of, Sidi Mayara. So when he introduces, he actually gives you a linguistic definition and then, a Shari definition. So linguistically, the word zakat means namu wa ziyada, literally increase. Yeah? Literally, it means increase. Namu and ziyada is increasing your wealth. Yeah? The word namu and ziyada, that you can say they're synonyms, they actually mean the same thing. Yeah? It's the example would be that, when you plant 1 grain of wheat, but when it grows from that 1 grain, you'll get about, a dozen whiskers or so of grain from that one. The same with if you planted 1 grain of rice, you'll get, a bowl of rice back from it. So linguistically, it means increasing. Yeah, it's also called sadaqatul mal, because you know the word sadaqa. You'll find that because at the end of this section, at the end of this book, we'll cover the recipients, the 8 recipients which are covered in Surah Tawbah. Allah uses the word sadaqah there as well, but again, sadaqah gets divided into wajib sadaqah and nafal sadaqah. So the word sadaqah can be, as long as the word wajib is added to it, is another word for zakatul mal. But again, it's not much in use. Now, here Sidi Mayara says that this increase and ziyada, increase. He says the barakah. What would be a good word for barakah in English?
Blessings.
Okay. Any other? Well, what?
Facilitation, maybe.
Say it again.
Facilitation.
Facilitation. What does that mean?
Or we could say God's assistance, divine assistance.
Divine assistance. Okay. What does grace mean in American?
In our context, it's probably the same because people usually associate it with Christianity. So probably mercy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But here, in English, we would, in English usage, grace would be like barakah. Yeah, there's something of divine attachment to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the barakah returning? I think we'll just use the word barakah because we all know what we're talking about. Yeah. So when you take from your wealth the zakat, is that the barakah returns back to your wealth from which it's taken from. There's something from my teenage years, because when I was between 15 and 16, 15 and 16, I was left for 2 years in Pakistan, and you would get regular beggars coming, knocking the door, and the thing that was readily available was the flour from which the chapatis were made. So you would get a bowl and go and give the flour, and the beggars would never give the bowl back empty. They would always give something back, say, go and put that back in the the flour bin. And this is the thing in Muslim culture. The whole thing of barakah is that there's a grace attached to it, that when you give, by giving you get more back. Yeah. Okay. Now, the evidence for zakat being an obligation is from the Kitab and Sunnah, and it is well known. And someone who does not accept the obligation of zakat apostatizes. So if someone will say, look, I accept everything else, but I'm not going to accept zakat as an obligation, that is tantamount to disbelief. So it is the second foundation, how the Maliki school understands the 5 foundations. This is the the third, because we covered third rather than second. So the first is the shahadatain, then the salat, and the third is the zakat, and it's well known. So someone who accepts the obligation of it but won't give it, won't give it, the zakat is taken from them by force. Even if they have to, Saifuddin, hold on, otherwise I'm going to lose this. Are people familiar with the apostasy wars that happened at the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu? Because, okay, majority of, the nomadic Arabs, what people we call Bedouin now. So the nomadic, and that was, majority of the tribes that were around, who resided in the desert. A lot of them agreed with everything else, but they wouldn't give the zakat to Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So this was something that was agreed by, general consensus of the companions radiallahu anhum. Because Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's khilafah is only 2 years. And he led, whole campaigns against these nomadic tribes and brought them to heel. He said, look, if you gave a penny to the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, I want that penny as well. And it was something that, it's worth reading, because it shows you how important this, foundation of the deen is. Because, from usul, we have, they call them ihsaniyat, but, that's a technical word for it. But, every masla, this is, the beauty of the deen, is that, every aspect of the deen will deal with the deen, the person, their mental welfare, their children, and their wealth. So, these 5. And without zakat, you can't actually, it doesn't function. Zakat is a very, very important foundation of the deen. Yes, Saifuddin.
My question is actually related to this topic of, the state demanding the zakat. So zakat is an obligation, just as salah is an obligation, but the state can't force you to pray 5 times a day.
No, they can't.
So in a similar vein, can it force you to pay the zakat, even though it is an obligation that you need to pay it? But must it be through the state? Can you not give it hand to hand or through a charity?
In our scenario, yes, we're going to cover this in a minute, because Sidi Mayara raises a very important point, and it's very relevant to what you raise. But the state, if it's a Muslim state and it's ruling according to the Sharia, then it can demand.
But can it demand you to also pray 5 times a day?
Yeah. No, not it can't force you to pray 5 times a day, but it can demand that you pay the zakat.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example of it now. It happens in Pakistan, by the way. The government, come Ramzan, whatever's in your account, if it comes to the minimum nisab, they automatically, from your account, they'll take 2.5%. And Saifuddin, just between me and you, it's shocking how many officially in Pakistan, in government records, how many Shia they are. Because, the Shia are exempt from paying zakat.
Yeah, but they'd be committing a sin.
See, they're waiting for the imam to, and then they'll pay. So the government accepts, but you got to sign a piece of paper that you're Shia, and you're responsible for your zakat. And on paper, it's shocking how many Shia they are. Yeah. Okay. Your question, I will deal with it in a minute. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So someone who accepts the obligation of it, but will not give it, yeah, the state can take it by force, and even if they have to fight them. This is clear cut. There isn't, you won't find a second opinion in any of the books of fiqh of any method. The state has the authority, and the one who does this is taught manners. And whenever you come across in a fiqh text where he says adab, it means that they're given a good beating, yeah, for not giving it, and it's permitted, and that's the mashhur position, by the way. It has conditions of obligation, so these conditions need to be met for the obligation of zakat being an obligation. So the first of them is that you got to be a Muslim. So zakat is not an obligation on a non-Muslim. That's the first. Second, you've got to be a free man. It's not an obligation upon a slave. The third is the nisab. So the threshold. Again, I use the word, the zakat threshold. In the world now, there's a thing called the poverty line. It's very similar when you look at it. But the nisab, we would say, the threshold. Let's stick with the word nisab. 1, 2, 3. The fourth condition is that the ownership must be correct. It must be legally yours. The property, the wealth has to be legally yours, not something that you've usurped from others. Yeah. So, for instance, you take over, someone's house or property, and then want to give zakat from it. It's not yours to give zakat from. You got to return the property to the owner. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth condition is that this is again, we'll cover it. Zakat, the division. There are 3 genres from which zakat is taken. So it's ayn. Ayn is gold and silver, what we would call, yeah, livestock and agricultural produce. Yeah, for the first 2, there must be a complete year. So it must be you must have it. It must be what's it called, surplus to requirement for a whole year. Yeah. You must not be in debt. Yeah. By this, in regard to the first genre, the first category, from Ain, you mustn't be in debt. Yeah. So when it comes to agricultural produce or livestock, the debt thing is not taken into consideration. But when it comes to Ain, gold and silver, the issue of debt is taken into consideration. So do people understand that? Those are the conditions of obligation. If you don't meet the conditions of obligation, zakat is not an obligation upon you. And these must be met. Yeah, you must be Muslim. You must be free. You must have, the minimum amount of wealth, which is the nisab. You must be, the legal owner of the property or the wealth itself. a whole year must have passed, apart from, agricultural produce. The livestock, again, should be in your possession, and you must be free from debt. And those are the conditions of obligation. The conditions of, giving it out. The first, this is, the first condition is you must have the intention. So because it is an act of worship, and this is really important, where, this is not an act of charity. Yeah? This is not, where you are just giving sadaqah. This is an act of worship. Zakat, it's a wajib, and it is an act of worship. So the intention must be correct. So you make the intention that you are fulfilling this obligation. Now, this is where we come to, Saifuddin's question. It must be given to a just ruler. Yeah? The government has to be just. Where you know that the government is corrupt. This is, Sidi ibn Hamdoun. And Sidi ibn Hamdoun passed away in 1858. So, alhamdulillah, at that time, the king was still the king. The French weren't in control. What happened later in Morocco. It has to be given to a just ruler if you know that the ruler is not just. And this is the fatwa of opinion of Sidi ibn Hamdoun. You do not give it to the state. You do not give it to the imam. Then the obligation falls upon you to give it. Yeah? Now, the question that, in our scenario where we are in the West, this text doesn't go into it, but when you go to the detailed texts, zakat should stay within the 48-mile radius. That's the first. It should stay within the 48-mile radius. And, if you've got, extended family that are in need, then they have more right than others do. If there is, more need for the zakat outside of the 48-mile radius, then it can go outside. Now, I worked just under 10 years for, a local charity based in Birmingham. One of the biggest, Muslim charities that in the Western world is based in Birmingham, Islamic Relief. Because it's an act of worship, you cannot. I think the best way for me to make you understand what I'm trying to explain is I'll put a question to you so it makes sense. Can I ask someone else to pray my salat for me? Why not? I see you lot shaking your head, but why can't you? Come on, Mustaqim, tell me why I can't get someone else to pray my prayer for me.
Because the obligation is upon you, Sidi, to pray your prayers.
Okay, it's the same with zakat. The obligation is upon you to give the zakat. Yeah? Saifuddin.
The Hajj, you can do it on behalf of.
Not if you're a Maliki.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because my understanding was that you could
Malikis are, weird. We're very sticklers to, because Allah says la waziratan wizran ukhra. No one else can carry your weight. So we don't have this opinion. within the school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
But-
consistent. Then. That's consistent.
Yeah. So in the same, so once you understand this, then now how can you give your zakat to someone who you don't know if they're going to give it to, and you have got no control? Yeah. So it's important that you take charge, because you are responsible for your wajibat. Because God's going to ask you, you can't turn around, oh, I gave it to Islamic Relief. Yeah. Well, Islamic Relief, alhamdulillah, there's great work that, so many of the charities are doing in the world, but there is great, backlash as well. Because the thing is, we don't find those same charities, they're when governments are responsible for their welfare of their people. Why should charities be taking charge of the welfare of any people? Again, it's a different subject, so I'm not going to go into it. As long as you understand you are responsible for your wajibat, and so practically, how can we do it in the West? Be more proactive. Because, when you look around, there is poverty within the Muslim communities, wherever you are. Yeah. And the thing is that you can actually take charge of, because the people that where you live have more right to your wealth, and specifically your immediate family. Your immediate family have more right to your wealth, especially your zakat, than someone on the other side of the world. Yeah. And when you give it yourself, there's something that I can't describe to you. When you fulfill your own obligation, it's something I never killed, apart from slaughtering a chicken. I'd never killed anything, and then I ended up one year slaughtering. In one day, I slaughtered about 9 or 10 cows, and it puts you off meat for good. And the thing is that when you get involved in your family, your community, and you see the good that you can do yourself and change, it does change you, because you're taking charge. I remember one year I had to go all the way to London to give, but the thing is that at least it was given. But you've got to take charge. Yeah, it's your money, and you're responsible for it. And as I said, that when you give, I have seen it. How much comes back, you can't think of it. Just the person that makes dua for you, that's more than enough. But from a legal point of view, once the money's been sitting there for a whole year, 2.5% is the right of the poor. Now, that's not your wealth anymore. It's their wealth that's entrusted to you. So you've got to give it to them, inshallah. Any questions on that? Because there are 8 categories for eight categories of recipients. As I said, that we will cover them when we get to the end of it. I can, because we're not some homework you can do. Yeah, it's So, Surah Tawbah, ayat 60, 60. Something you can read up on, inshallah. Anyway, are we okay so far with the whole concept of zakat? Yeah? Okay. 1-8. Yes, Mustaqim.
Sidi, when you say that the one who is giving zakat should not be in debt, is that only restricted to I owe him, or can it also be like student debt and the like?
Okay. Now then. In the Western world, when the governments give you a student loan or you get a loan from the bank, it's a monthly. First of all, you've got to reach a certain level of income before the debt begins to be collected, and then it's a gradual payment that's deducted from your wages every month. So because it's a debt that's managed, it's not taken into consideration the same way as if you've got a loan like a mortgage in the house that you're living. Because it's a long-term debt and it's being paid every month, it's not actually affecting your everyday life the same way the student loan is not being affected. So it's not taken into consideration. And people who do really need to think about it. Because the thing is that, if you can manage your student loan and your mortgage and still have surplus income, then you can't make the case, look, I've got a mortgage or I've got a student loan, I can't pay the zakat. I can't force it, but I'll put my hand down your pocket and take it. Yes, Saifuddin.
Isn't there a position where only a year's worth is deducted?
Years worth of what?
Of, say, your student debts, payments on your mortgage?
No, but that's what I'm saying, that you see, it's a managed debt. It's not a debt that, you're not in any position to pay off that debt. Yeah? The student loan,
Yep.
there's no way that, a student who has graduated, or even if he's working, he's in no position to pay off. An average debt now is about 60,000 for the student when they finish their, BA. So I don't know of any student who's got that kind of cash floating around. So it's a debt that's, gradually, it's managed and gradually paid off as you, progress in life. And with the mortgage, it's exactly the same. So this does not mean that, your mortgage payment and your student payment will be taken into consideration when you're calculating your income and expenditure, but it will not be a reason for not paying zakat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. Is it's only when you come to calculating whether you're above the nisab or you're below the nisab.
No, when you calculate, I'll tell you a simple sum. On every 1,000, there's 25 pounds. On every 1,000, there's 25 pounds in zakat. But the thing is, that 1,000 needs to be sitting there for a whole year. It must be surplus to use or requirement, whatever word you want to use. So, your annual salary of this year, yeah, there's no zakat on it. What you will do is you will take away your expenditure, yeah, and what is left as surplus to requirement, you'll keep it aside. Another way is really your savings. From your savings, you give your zakat. You can't deduct, from your income of that year zakat, because there's no way. You don't know what your income and expenditure is. Yes, real one.
My apologies if I missed the Sheikh. I had to step away for just a second. But so, do we include our rents for the year? So let's say we're renting an apartment.
Yes.
Okay. So we just calculate how much we expect to pay that whole year, and then whatever we have surplus after that.
What you've got to look at is that the money that is surplus to requirement, and it needs to be there for a whole year.
Okay.
Because this whole income, this whole year is really important with the school of Medina. It must be there for a whole year, and it must be surplus to requirement. Yes, Mustaqim.
So in the Maliki Madhab CD, there's no such thing as preempting zakat, because many people pay in Ramadan because it's more virtuous and stuff. But in the Maliki Madhab, we have to wait for a full Islamic year.
This whole thing of being more virtuous, I don't know where they get it from. I really would like to know. Yeah? Because the Sayyidina Uthman's time, the year used to be Rajab. I think even the Abbasids took on that as, the financial year, Rajab to Rajab. But the thing is that there's some Arab tradition as well, because they thought that the beginning of the year was Rajab. It's you choose, because, in our scenario, we've got no governments. Yeah? So we choose. Now, it doesn't make that much of a difference if you're using the solar calendar or the lunar calendar. It makes no difference. It's 10 days here or there. It's nothing more than that. Yeah. Now there is some leeway. For instance, 5 to 10 days, it's not problematic. For instance, you've got zakat sitting at home, but there's 10 to 5 days before the full whole year completes. But then, this family turns up in the community that really needs that money. Yeah? In that scenario, our scholarship says it's not problematic because, 5 days here or there or 10 days here or there doesn't make that much of a difference. The need does. Yeah? But otherwise, the year needs to be completed. Yeah. But, there is no, Ramzan has no significance in giving zakat or not giving zakat. Yeah. What Ramzan has become it's something, I don't know, it's, Imam Malik Radhiallahu transmits from his grandfather. And Imam Malik's grandfather was the scribe, one of the scribes of Sayyidina Umar, and then of Sayyidina Uthman. And he says, I actually don't recognize anything other than the adhan from that time. It's what Ramzan has become is you go shopping, there are buckets, give. You turn the TV on, the charities want money from you. You turn the radio on, they want. I don't know, the whole thing of it, it's supposed to be the month of the Quran, not month of giving. Yeah, it's month of banking, charging yourself with the Quran, so you're charged fully to spiritually, to cope for the rest of the year. But I don't know where this comes from. Yes, Saifuddin.
Yeah, I also get letters every Ramadan from all the charities. I don't know how they get my name and address, but they somehow have it.
No,
But
I'll tell
anyway,
you, there's a trick, there's a way. what you do is don't open the letter, write on the envelope, please take me off your database. No. If you send that, they're legally obliged in UK. In
Oh,
the
really?
UK, they're legally obliged to take you off their database. Yeah, they get it from someone actually works through the year. They go through the phone books and everything else, and they collect the Muslim names. I know how it works because I used to work for them, for a charity. Yeah, was that at Saifuddin? What else was it?
No, the question was, so say you started off the year with £0 in your bank account, and then each month you're saving £1,000. Let's just use that as an example. At the end of the year, you've got £12,000.
Yeah.
Now, you wouldn't pay anything, would you? Because
For the
you've not
first year, nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Because my understanding was you'd pay 2.5% on the 12k. Because that's what you have at the end of the year when you're calculating your zakat. You got 12k in your
12k. Once it's been sitting there, surplus to use.
Okay, so you'd pay nothing in the first year.
Nothing in the first year, but if you do give, that's up to you.
Yeah.
You're not. The obligation is only after a complete year.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We've gone. I took 10 minutes, so you've got 5 more minutes. Yeah. Any questions? No. Zakaria, can you read the first verse 182?
182. Zakat is wajib on that which is inscribed of gold and silver, cereal and crop harvests, and grazing livestock.
Okay. Now, these are, this is the beauty of the deen, is that, we do not have a fourth category of for zakat. And this is, across the board. It's ain, is ain mashia, and anyway, in English is a lot easier. In'am. For ain, I don't have an English word for it because every kind of product you can think of that is associated with money. Yeah. Any kind of product you can think of. Your investments, your property, your jewelry, gold, silver, precious metals, precious stones, all of them are included in Ain. Yeah. Now, in livestock, again, we will cover it when we get to that. Is livestock that because historically, because Muslim societies have been first nomadic, secondly, they've relied on their livestock. That then, for agricultural produce is again only crops that can be stored. Yeah, perishable crops. The school of Medina does not bring them under zakat because they can't be stored. Yeah. Example, vegetables, because they will there's no way of storing them. In Medina, they wouldn't put zakat on food, fresh vegetables. However, with dates, they would be dried and they can be kept for the whole year. So fruit that can be, stored and so on and so forth, example, olive oils, fresh olive oils will go off really quickly. Yeah, but if they're pressed into oil, the oil becomes more valuable, so the zakat is taken from the oil rather than the olive oil. But we'll cover it next week when we get to it, inshallah. Now, there is, I don't know if I shared it, but I will share with you someone who, Sheikh Tawil, rahmatullah alayh, we'll end with this, inshallah, today. Sheikh Tawil was, from the 1990s, and, the beginning of, I think, 2000s. I've forgotten what year he died. He was a mountain of a man. He actually authored something very, very interesting on zakat, because there's a the nisab for zakat, the threshold. People usually will always say it's 20 dinars, 20 pieces of gold. Now, the price of gold fluctuates too much. Yeah. Now, and because the price goes too high, there are a lot more people who end up being exempt from zakat. Yeah. So what Sheikh Tawil did, he actually wrote a paper that zakat should be calculated by, the silver standard, not by the gold standard. And alhamdulillah, scholarship followed him ever since. So what happens is there's more money in circulation, small amount of money. There's more, because zakat, is so relevant to, society. It's shocking because, we live in the West, and, we've got experts in on economy, and there's so many theories of economics and so on and so forth. But a small dose given regularly keeps the economy more healthy than one big injection of it. And then anyway, I'll share the paper. Alhamdulillah, Hamid Ali, from the United States, he translated it. Alhamdulillah, he's a doctor now, Dr. Hamid Ali. I'll share it. It's worth reading up on it because Sheikh Tawil was, an amazing scholar. If your Arabic is up to scratch, it's worth reading his works. If you can't access them, let me know. I'll send them to you because I've got PDFs of them. Because he answered a lot of questions that arose and are still arising in the West, outlook on Islam and everything else. But an amazing man. Inshallah, Bilal, the onus is on you to remind me. Inshallah, I'll share them with you. But I'll share his paper on the silver standard, and he also talks about paper money as well, because there's this whole discourse. Paper's not included in Ain, so should there be any zakat from Ain anyway? So that's one of the arguments of the Shia and other scholars who don't. It's interesting. Anyway, I'll see you next week, inshallah. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.